guys here to help us out are the investment pros. We've got Matt, Jim, and Hillary with us as usual. Jim, what do you think?
Well, I think the NASDAQ, as Oliver talked about, is getting a little bit of a boost clearly from Apple. On the other side of the coin, you know, you got oil. We've been talking about trading in a range. Today was not a great day for oil. The oil companies got hit. You talked about it.
You've been in the camp of saying a retest 44, 43.
Yes, I think because I think they're trying to solve the supply side. They have not remotely. We have no answer for the demand side, and the supply side itself is not really being found a resolution. And you had mixed economic news. CPI a little worse than expected. Durable goods better than expected. That was good. And jobless claims, I think, disappointed folks. So
but I love that mixed data. I think that's what keeps the market right where it is, because it's good enough to keep people interested. It's good enough to have 2.5% growth GDP in this country, but it's not good enough for the Fed to make a move. So this is absolutely perfect. Mediocrity right now is exactly what we want in this market.
We'll see, I think, later in the year.
The dollar is not just hype anymore. You're seeing companies being impacted, Microsoft, IBM, and others. And I do think that's an impact specifically on earnings and estimates of earnings on a forward basis.
So Wall Street, I mean, when I do my work, I do take into account constant currency, and I try to phase out all the fluctuations in FX because I think you drive yourself crazy. You think the street's doing that, and to a certain degree that justifies the market being higher? If you think the dollar's strength is its temporary event.
I mean, again, I think there's some element of companies specific. We've been talking about U.S. companies, U.S.-centric, and doing better.
But these are the names that drive the markets, right? These large names are the ones that really bring the indices either up or down.
If I can, I just want to add, there is so much foreign money coming into this market. Some of them are all cash purchases. Some of them are working with, you know, again, super jumbo originators. But the fact is, whether it's money from Russia, from China, from Brazil, we talk about American excellence. The fact is,
from El Salvadorian drug cartels, you don't care. You don't care where the money comes from.
I'm unaware of that one, but I would say the fact is there is confidence that you can shift money. Look, oil money under the ground, put it in a building, put it in an apartment, put it in a home above ground. That is a good shift.
No one has a problem with this. What do you like in this space, Jim?
You talk about Toll Brothers, but actually, and they're in the high-end sector, but I like Lennar. Their backlog, Dominic hit on it. They have almost a 6,000 home backlog, which is over 20% bigger than they were last year. I think the stock's been, you know, trading a little bit flat, a little bit sideways, I should say. But that demand for homes, the backlog, I think, is going to be a big benefit going forward.
In the meantime, this is not necessarily my favorite stock, but for someone who's a buy and hold investor, I would not dissuade you from owning it. I don't really have a favorite in this particular sector, but I know this is a name that you two guys follow closely. What do you think about it, Jim?
Look, I think you stay the course with P&G, one of the most consistent dividend payers. They got a consolidation going on, which I think ultimately they're going to come out even better the other side. If you want to maybe look at Unilever as an alternative or maybe some kind of combination, they're bigger in emerging markets, but I still very much like that name.
I 100% agree.
And JCPenney we'll talk about later, but you know, that stock did go up. Initially, it went up. When they brought over the guy from Apple, JCPenney stock went through the moon. They thought that, you know, the old Apple term was going to work.
And it crumbled pretty quickly.
And it did crumble. And that's my point, Jim, about the risk of this. These stocks are going up 30% in a matter of months before there's even any evidence. Now, it's one thing to be enthusiastic, but there's another thing to say, golly, are you giving them the benefit of the doubt they're going to be right?
Well, I think, take Oliver's comments, what I heard is optimism for the future. And however, I do think there's some exuberance, and probably a little too much so. To Hillary's point, these guys haven't done anything yet. And yet there's this exuberance. But again, I do think it's not easy to dismiss a CEO. I know it happens, but the fact is it is that turning point, and people want to get in there early, and it tends to push the stock maybe higher than it deserves to.
What do you like, Jim?
Recycling.
I went with Blackberry.
You know, that's right. You've been in Blackberry.
And again, John Chen stepped in. He went back to basics: government, security, enterprise. And what do they do? All of a sudden, not all of a sudden, cut a deal with Google, Android for their enterprise mobility. He's actually going back to core, all about security.
All you kids out there studying economics and business in college, that dual CEO thing never works. This is a good case example.
You're going down with that stock, aren't you? You're not giving up on it.
What do you like? You like any names? Years ago, before I understood the business, I looked at this company, Acacia Research, which is probably the largest. I liked it because I liked the story that I bought a bag of goods saying that, hey, some inventor in their garage invents something, it's fantastic, and they try to put it on the market, and when these big boys steals it, who's going to protect them? But that's not really what it turns out to be, though.
I don't think that's what's going on, and I think, you know, patent troll, I think, is a little bit pejorative term. I think extortionist would be a better word for it. And the fact is, there was going to be, I guess, the legislation, as you talked about. But look, this IV, the ticker, they are very strong at what they do. They're big lobbies. They're starting a PAC. And so, again, I think we have a tremendous legal system, but it does get abused, and I think that's what we're seeing.
There's frivolous lawsuits. I think somebody has to step in and do it, but I think
it could even go to 38. Obviously, very volatile, but I do like this one a lot. Jim, what do you think?
I'm in favor. I think while there's always risk to having Apple as your biggest customer, and other companies have faced difficulties there, I think they are in good shape. I think the revenue beat was tremendous. I think there was a little bit of a hiccup on people trying to digest the Wolfson acquisition and how much of the revenues came from that acquisition. I think it's noise, and I think this thing goes further, and Apple helps take them there.
Better. So far,
Yes.
almost every name up. The names that have had trouble, Herbalife, JCPenney down. What do you think?
Look, I think at the top of the hour, we talked about some of the economic news that came out today. I think tomorrow morning may not be a big earnings day, but it is going to be a big economics day. You got the GDP, you got pending home sales, you got consumer sentiment, and I think that is going to be actually tomorrow the driver. I don't think they expect a lot out of GDP, but the fact is I do think pending home sales, consumer sentiment matter.